Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Mike Prince Show. Of course, I am the host, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, coming to you each and every day with the world of HBCU, in particular that of my beloved Prairie View A&M University Panthers. As I've been reminding you, you can follow me on Twitter at OBN_radio. Instagram is Radio Guide, and the website is obnradio.com. Today I am fortunate enough to have a person who has joined us on the show today who I value and respect. I've been knowing since I've been on the campus of Prairie View as a student, and that's none other than Mr. Fred Washington. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Okay, well, we're mighty glad to have you here. It's no doubt that this is the second time around for you on the interim basis right now, and there are some who are acknowledging that some of the best days of late was under your leadership. And what is it like for you coming back the second time around?
Well, you know, the coming home is always good, you know, but coming home is not always the same as it was when you left. And so I'm really excited to be over here. It's a great opportunity for me to engage with our student athletes, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to be able to do together.
Now, when we always go ahead moving forward, and as we get a little bit older, I'm not going to say who's looking older, but I'd say we're both looking good for our age. When you begin to reflect back and you have an opportunity to say, man, if I could have done this and I could have done that, was there anything that you reflected upon as athletic director on the interim basis last time around that you might want to be able to reconcile this time around?
Well, I think we did, you know, I try to break things into different categories. I think performance-wise, we did a lot. I think in terms of investing in the right things, I think we did that. But me personally, I have about 4 or 5 people that are close to me that are probably my confidants and biggest critics. If I yield to them, which I often do, I like the viewpoints of others. You know, I am not probably your most outwardly engaging person. So I don't. I'm a PV person. I'm for the PV Nation all the way. But I don't necessarily socialize the same way that the PV Nation socializes. You know what I mean?
Here.
And so, unfortunately for me, for the last 30 years, in engaging in the socialization and the joy of PV Nation, it's always worked for me. You know, I work through homecoming. I work through these activities, and that is an area that, you know, I'm going to try to do better during this time. I'm going to try to spend time with people, just being a person with people, away from the job, and enjoy some of these things that we've created together, because it's a good chance that when I do that, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to hear something from somebody that we can then use to get better.
Well, there's always about getting better, and you'll be amazed that when people know of you until they get a chance to sit down and speak with you to really learn who you are as an individual. I get it all the time with this show that I do. Some are hot, some are cold, and some are in between. It all depends on what the topic is for the day. But when we're talking about the promotion of PV Nation, you're in the role of leadership. You understand that sometimes we have to deal and just grab the bull by the horn and just get it out of the way. You're a military guy. Sometimes you deal with what has to be dealt with, and we'll cross the next bridge when it's time to come to that.
Sure, definitely. Let me stop, Mike, and I have to do this. I have 4 kids, and they tune in to anything that Daddy's on. And the last couple of times I didn't say a shout out to my kids. My oldest daughter by name. She's gonna listen to this show after you put it out there. And so let me get, if you don't mind.
Hey, you go right ahead, sir.
My daughter Alicia Washington. She's starting her freshman year in high school this year, and the last 2 shows that she heard me on, she said the shows were not good, and the reason that they were not good was simply because I did not acknowledge her.
Okay, well, call her name one more time.
Alicia Washington. That is baby girl.
Okay, now we don't want to get the other ones jealous, so might as well go.
They're not jealous. They're not gonna listen.
Well, Miss Alicia, we hope that today's show would be to your satisfaction.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem at all. So when we talk about addressing these situations that come up, that's part of the territory, but sometimes it's the most difficult part of the territory, is it not?
Yeah, I think it can be for some. For me, in my time here, and you mentioned the military, I was taught to seek resolution, not fault. And as long as we're looking for a resolution to get better, and we're not looking to hang blame on somebody or point the finger, we can normally get past those things pretty easy and get better. So we did a lot of that between 2008 and 2013. I think you can attest to the outcomes that we had. We had a lot of good things happen for us during that time, on and off the field. So I think we're going to focus on that. I don't know if you've heard any of the other presentations and things that I've done since I've been over here, but I committed initially to focus on two things. I wanted to focus on student athlete experience. What are our student athletes touching, and what are they getting out of their experience here as a part of PV Nation? And I wanted to touch fan experience and what they're seeing, what they're getting. I think we've done a good job with creating venues and facilities that meet the needs of our fan base and those that are coming. But now, how do we fill in the gaps in there? What are you getting when you come? How are you getting those things? How are we reaching out to you? Those are the two things that I think if we wanted to look at a specific thing of target and how we move forward, I don't want to talk about why we're not having the best experience here internally to us, but I want to talk about how can we improve the experience and what do we need to add. So, yeah.
And that my caveat has been this. Prairie View, in this unique splendor that it is, and that is represented since 1876, has always going to be a unique university in regards to the state of Texas and throughout the nation. And I think the missing part of the missing part, is that we have gone through the area in which we reside in, Prairie View, the city, Waller County, the resident, and we've been leapfrogging to Cypress and to Houston when they could care less about what goes on in Prairie View. And then the backlash is that the people who could make a difference, because I thoroughly believe in my heart, with the 15,000 seat stadium, there are 8,000 people within the Waller County that could become fans that might not even be aware that Prairie View is in existence, even as close as it is.
I agree with you in that. We started, that came to be a point that we were reviewing towards the end of my tenure last time. And one of the things that a university employee brought to my attention, and maybe in mid-2012, was the passion and love that the local community had for high school sports. And they invited me out to I think it was Hempstead, a Hempstead football game. They were making playoff runs at that time, and you just see the number of people from the community who may not even have a student in school at that time that are at that game, and that's the population that you're talking about. There are sports fans in this community that we have to figure out how to get them involved in what we're doing. And I think we have some things, some initiatives that we've tried. I think Monique has this youth thing program that she's trying to get off the ground. That's just one pocket, but we have to come up with a series of things that reach out to the community and get them engaged in what we're doing and build them as a fan. This is the local institution that we should be a part of. Everything that happens in the immediate area and everything that happens in the immediate area should be a part of what we do. It should work in both ways. I think we're going to spend some time focused on that.
Yes, sir. As a 4-time elected official for Waller Independent School District, I know every chance I get, I'm advocating Prairie View A&M University. Majority of the people that have their master's degrees have come through Prairie View A&M University that are employed at Waller ISD. And I know what's out there. And I know what's for years at Old Blackshear Stadium. I love the new stadium, don't get me wrong, but it's something about the nostalgia about the old Blackshear Stadium. I used to round up kids from Waller School District, Hempstead, and Royal just to bring them to a couple of games so they can experience it for themselves. And I'm tired of us saying it's the best kept secret.
Yeah.
It needs to be blown up that we're here and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think the secret's getting out too, but I said a couple of years ago that I thought we missed a great opportunity with Waller Independent School District when they built their facility out there. Had we been a little bit more proactive and a little bit more aggressive, our Panther Stadium could be the home stadium that team comes and plays on. And just think about how many people who don't visit our campus regularly would have at least been visiting our campus once a week when that team was playing here. We could have done that and then even worked to do the same thing with Hempstead and other area schools, and just to give those young people the opportunity to play in something special and to expose them to college. We want everybody to come to Prairie View, but we want young people to go to college.
Yes, sir. We're speaking right now with Fred Washington. Is it okay to say just athletic director, or you want to keep interim?
The funny thing about that is interim is a term that is affectionately used by people away from the campus or people who don't work. Interim or non-interim does not impact responsibility. I have the same responsibility whether you call me interim or you call me the director. It doesn't matter what the title is. The job is just the same. And so I'm not bothered by people saying interim. I was interim in 2008 for 6 months, and then all of a sudden the people just stopped calling me interim, right?
I was going to say, newsflash, brother. Anything after 6 months, you're the guy. Well, after 6 days, you're the guy.
And so, I'm not, either one is fine. I don't get that heavy into titles and things like that. I focus on the job.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we know that we're still in search for an athletic director. And this is leaning back on the Pittsburgh Still of Love that we have and being that we walked on campus together.
Sure.
Are you interested in becoming the athletic director?
I haven't applied. I have not applied for the job. I say to anyone who asks me, I serve at the pleasure of the institution. If we get to a point where our president believes that she needs me to carry this role, I will carry this role. I didn't apply for it last time. I share this story with people that I have not applied for a job since I applied for my second internship with the Department of Energy in Amarillo, Texas, as an undergraduate student. That's the last job that I applied for. And so I'm a person of faith. I know you're a person of faith, and I go where I'm called and needed. And so everything that I've done at this institution has been what the institution needed me to do at that time. And so I think this is a great job. I think it's a great opportunity for someone. It would be a great opportunity for me because it's something different than what I'm doing now. It's something different than what I did from 2008 to 2013. I didn't have a 15,000 seat stadium that I needed to try to fill up, right? I had a 5,000 seat stadium and 20,000 people trying to get in there. That was a different challenge. So yeah, I mean it's a great job, but I have not entered my name into the conversation formally to say this is something that I want to try to take over.
But if the opportunity presents itself,
no, I'm not. I shared during our National Alumni Convention that this was a surprise to me, as I think it was to anyone else. I had no belief that Ashley was leaving. This is a great job. Not that the job at Jackson that he's taken isn't a great job and isn't a great opportunity, but there just wasn't any indication or any reason, to leave Prairie View. And so I was not prepared, if you will, to be back over here. At the time when I got the call, I did this 5-year story. I don't know if you heard it or if your listeners had heard it, but when I got the call in 2008, I had just completed. I deployed with the military in 2003. I came back and I had decided I was going to focus on some things personally and professionally. And from 2003 to 2008, I did that. That was 5 years of focus. In 2008, Charles McClellan left and went to Texas Southern. I was contacted at that time. I had went with my family on our first vacation since I returned from deployment. I didn't go on vacation. I came back in 2003 and I went straight into work. Worked 5 years, and then we went on vacation. While I was on vacation, I got the call from former President Wright and said I needed to do this. I did that job for 5 years, right? So from 2008 to 2013, I did that job. When I left in 2013, Ashley took over, and I said I'm going to focus on some personal things again. And I focused on those things for 5 years, and I was in the trenches working for Prairie View very hard, and I did not take what people would consider a vacation. I went to see my mama, yeah. I went to a couple places, but I didn't go on vacation. In June of 2018, I took my family on vacation, right? First time in 5 years.
History repeating itself.
And while I was on that vacation, with my family. My phone rang, and it was the president, and she asked me almost word to word to what Dr. Wright had asked me in 2008, and I agreed to come over here and do everything that I could. Now, I don't know if there's going to be another 5-year ending to this relationship, but that's what history has shown me, is that every 5 years there's a dynamic shift in what the institution needs from me. And I think at least the first 3 times that dynamic shift has occurred, I've answered the call and done everything that I could to support us.
Now, you've had the advantage of sitting in that chair from both angles, as the director and then as a colleague, as far as the responsibilities of different departments. From your vantage point, what does it take? What does this university need for an effective athletic director to take it to the next level?
Sure, I can tell you what I said to both the president and to our CFO, who's chairing the committee. I said, and this is not any kind of indication on whether Ashley or anyone else who preceded me or him had that. But what I've learned, you asked me earlier, what I've learned is that one of the most important elements about this job is the business acumen that the person brings to the table. This is a business, and that person has to be capable of running and moving the business forward. And so that is what I think is important for the committee that is evaluating our applicants has. And when people ask, well, why don't you apply? I think that I'm a good businessman, but that doesn't mean that I'm the best businessman. And there may be someone else who's interested in this opportunity that has those business skills that will expose us to something that I'm not really familiar with. And that's why I say I serve at the pleasure of. If we go through this process and we find someone special, I'm very happy and excited. I like coming to the games with my family on game days and being able to sit down there and joke and play with everybody else. I enjoy that. But if I'm not able to do that and have to work, then I'll do that. If I had to choose, I'm a family man, right? But I serve at the pleasure of the institution. I'm happy to do it.
Well, that is exactly what we've been harping, and I appreciate the fact that you listen to the show too. That means a lot to me. You've heard me say that the athletic director of 10 years ago even has changed dramatically. Sure. And he is the CEO of the athletic department. And the key faces of a university are going to be your president, your athletic director, and your head football coach. Sure. And when the person understands that, the ability to go out and create funding that doesn't appear to be there, that's going to be the role of a person who knows how to get out there and get it done.
I mean, we're financially solvent. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, no doubt.
Financially
No doubt.
Solvent. I was with Kevin Granger, the new AD at Texas Southern, yesterday, and Kevin said something that was right on target and relevant to what you're saying now. Even if he was talking about his basketball program and how strong that they've been, but he made the point that, hey, if everybody else isn't standing still, they're trying to get better and they're trying to move up. And if you don't consistently do things that are going to keep your program moving forward, whichever element of the program that you're talking about, everybody else is going to catch up and eventually pass you. And that's a part of the business strategic planning thing that people talk about all the time. We have to strategic plan. And one thing that I talk about away from athletics and just about everything, you have to have the goal has to be in place. And then everything that you do has to tie back to the goal. But if you don't set up a strong goal that is communicated to everyone, then most often you're not going to be successful in whatever you're trying to do because people are pulling in other directions. When I first met with the athletic staff a couple of weeks ago, I used a quote, and I don't know if I have that quote with me so I can give credit. The quote basically said that just because you're moving doesn't mean you're going anywhere. Just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're getting anything done. All right, and that ties back to the goal. If you don't have a goal and everybody's not working towards the same thing, everybody can be doing a whole bunch of stuff, but that stuff isn't taking you to where you need to be. And I'm going to try to find that goal. That quote.
Now, while you're trying to find that quote, let me ask you this particular question. What are some long-term goals and short-term goals for Fred Washington, the AD?
As the AD?
Yes.
Well, let me give you a short-term goal. because I'm an accountant, so short term and long term, Mike, is 1 year, 5
Yes,
years.
sir. Yes,
So
sir.
we
Yes,
just
sir.
said that I'm the interim, so I don't know if I'm going to get to the 5 year.
Yes,
even though
sir.
We just talked about 5 years, but in the short term, in terms of what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to help the PV Nation understand what we need. All right, we talk about as fans, which I've been a fan and supporter for the last 5 years, not an administrative role with athletics. We talk about in football. There's a lot of other things. We got 18 sports, but in football we talk about home games. All right, why can't we have more home games? Why can we do that? What we need is to meet our revenue needs in home game participation in order to reduce the need for having road games and game guarantees. What we need is to get to 8,000 paid home participants at every home game. If we accomplish that, we can easily move from 4 games to 5 games, and then in off seasons get to 6. All right, we're not going to get to 7 because we have a neutral site game with Grambling every year. All right, but we can get to, in some years, 6 home games. We can do that, but we can't do that with 3,000, 4,000 paid attendees, right? And so I need the fan base to understand we can accomplish what you're asking us to do, but this is what's necessary to do that. So I'm going to try to. I've tried to do a couple of things. I think we sent out a survey that I wanted to do a couple of weeks ago to get feedback and input from all of our fans and supporters so they can tell me what's important.
Was there a certain list of who got that?
No. It went out a couple of different ways, Mike. It went out through season pass package or season pass participants. It went out to anybody who purchased a ticket through our ticketing system, and it went out on social media. I actually got it 2 or 3 different ways.
I never received it personally.
Okay. And so, do you get the email blast and tweet blast?
Yes, sir. I'm a season ticket holder.
Well, you should have got it. So I'll check and see what you did. But you should. It definitely went out. I monitored the outgoing messaging from our athletics page, and it went out. So I'll ask them to blast that out. But we've had over 2,000 responses, Mike. So I know it got out.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
People are asking me about it and making reference to it. But there have been instances where individuals have said to me, "Hey, I didn't get it." And so I'll look and see for you specifically. And if I don't have it, you on the list of a person who received it, I'll make sure Dwayne and them.
Okay, no problem. We appreciate that. We're speaking again with Fred Washington, Athletic Director of Prairie View A&M University. Second time around. They say the second time around is just as good as the first time, depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah,
now,
there's a song that says not like the first
time. Not like the first time. I forget who that was, but Shalimar. Yeah, there you go. Now, look, speaking from a fan perspective, now my wife made sure that I asked this question, so I got to go home. Just like your child listens, my wife listens. So I got to make sure. She's been a season ticket holder. She wants to know, are there any, I guess I'm going back now to auxiliary guy now. Sure. Are there any plans of season ticket holders getting a chance to park closer for home games?
This is the interesting, the interesting side of that conversation because people bring that to me all of the time, and so I'm talking with the auxiliary hat all the time. Why can't season ticket holders and such and such? Auxiliary is a service provider, right? So if as I'm sitting in 2 seats, but if as the athletic director I say, hey, I have X number of people that I'm trying to support, and this is where that I want to place them, auxiliary does not control movement or relocating of that population. We provide the service that we've been asked to provide. Even if we don't necessarily agree with the decision that we make, we'll say to you as a service provider, well, hey, you're going to have this many people. What do you think about this? What do you think about this option? Why don't you put them here? We believe that we can do better support for you here. If you say, no, this is what I want, then that's the service that we're going to provide. And that's really been what's been going on for the last few years. So there's a couple of things with that. I've been going, I've had at least 8 or 9 of these individual conversations in addition to, I say individual, but it may be me as an individual talking to a group to just kind of get feedback and information from people in addition to the survey. And so last week I met with the Panther backers at their meeting, and parking is a big deal for everybody, and we know that it's 30,000 people out here, so we know that parking is important. one of the things that we discussed that I thought was really, really important, I didn't know this before meeting with them and then looking at the data, is handicap parking as a part of this piece. So when you look at handicap parking, generally you have what I've been referring to, the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. All right, the letter of the law requires that based on the number of parking spaces that we have, we provide X number of handicap spaces to accommodate that population. And we meet with ease the letter of the law. The spirit of the law shows us that you should adjust your practice to the population in which you're serving. One of the things that I'm trying to get from, if you look at the survey, what you see, the survey asks you some demographic questions. How old are you? You know, things like that. Because what we haven't captured as a department, Mike, is what is the age? We can see it, right? We can see it and we can assume what the ages are of the people who are participating and supporting us at events, but we don't have the data to drive the services. In addition to where we're parking our season pass members, we have to pay attention to what is the demographic of that season pass population, because if the numbers are showing out to be 80% of that season population is senior citizens or handicap accessible, it doesn't matter if I give you, the appropriate number of spaces that are close to the thing. As you and I, who are able-bodied people, think close is one thing, but what if somebody who needs a wheelchair? What if they're close but they're not accessible in terms of what they need? So we're trying to get through all of that. We have a series of meetings coming up with my parking staff where we're going to go through and do a lot of things to try to make the experience better. I can't create a parking lot where there ain't no parking lot. People talk to me all the time, well, there's no parking on the west side. I know that. I mean, what is it that we can have this conversation, but that doesn't mean I disagree with you. I agree with you, but there is no parking lot on the west side of campus, and I can't miraculously make one appear. Even if we agreed today we should have parking on the west side of campus, and even if we had a solution to move baseball, softball, the practice team, the soccer field, that all sit right there where that parking would go, even if we had a solution, we're still 9 months away from that parking lot being there. If everything was agreed to today, we're 9 months away, which means what? For this football season, it's not going to be there. And so we have to come up with the best possible solution. We're gonna do some things differently that I think are supportive. Will it be a perfect scenario? No, a perfect scenario is a parking lot immediately outside of the entrance that you want to use to get into the game. We're not going to be there by the end of the fall. So
very understandable, and I appreciate you taking that question head on. Referring back to what you had just commented on as far as getting the attendance up,
sure.
I spoke candidly that part of the unique challenge is, and we have to condition or recondition PV Nation as a whole, that the east side of the stadium is not the visitor side of the stadium.
Definitely.
That is a home field wherever you
the
are.
Entire stadium
it's all our home side. However, though, there could be a unique twist that would attract that fan that we're trying to build upon,
mm-hmm.
and getting the TV games to look a little bit more pleasing to the eye, because everybody wants to get of an adjusted rate for that east side of the stadium. Even a simple ticket coding, the purple tickets on one side, gold tickets on another side for that general admission. I don't know what that happy medium would be, but where a family of 4 could go and enjoy a Panther football game without having to take a loan out next week.
Sure, I got you. Yeah, we just brought in a ticket guy, Morgan Plott. Morgan's got with us just this summer, and I've given him some guidance, and Monique obviously has given him some guidance. My guidance really is what initiatives and activities we can create to get our sales volume up to where we want it to be. That's the goal, right? We talked about the goal. The initiatives and how we get there are going to vary in a lot of ways. One of the things that separately from that I'm doing this year. So our Southern game, which is our season opener, is our family and friends game. So it is the game where we're going to invite the families of the freshmen. This is one initiative, separate population from what you're talking about, but it's a deliberate initiative to get those families, whether they are PV legacy or not, to get those families engaged with participating and attending our games. One part of that, Mike, is you're familiar with the PV Shuffle that our freshman class does every year. Okay, one part of that initiative of Family and Friends Day is, as opposed to the family having to watch the students do it on the internet, on YouTube, or however that thing is going out, I'm going to let those freshmen do the PV Shuffle at the game time in the stadium where their families can see. So that's a draw, whether you want to see football or not. Right? I mentioned my daughter's a senior in high school, but if she was a freshman in high school, if she was a freshman at Prairie View and she was going to be out there on that field, I'm going to be in that stand to watch her, right? And once I come and once I experience a good experience at that facility, odds are that I'm going to come back and be there more, whether she's on the field or not. So that's one initiative. And the reason that I mention that isn't for the PV Shuffle piece. It goes back to what you were mentioning with the stadium. I was a part of many conversations before the opening of the stadium where I corrected people when they say the home and visitor side. I corrected people. I said, no, it's an east and west side. We don't have a home and visitor side, and we can't paint that picture in people's head. I don't know that it went as wide as it should have, and so we're 2 years in now. We've kind of created this home and visitor side thing that people have in this traditional makeup. What I am going to do to try to start to break that is when we kick off the Family and Friends Day, I'm trying to work with student engagement and student activities that the freshman class is placed on the east side of the campus. So their first game experience is on the east side of campus. I believe at Prairie View, once we've done things 4 times, it becomes the way that people think that it should be, because we get a new freshman class every year. So by the time we do the 4th PV Shuffle on that field for game time, we should have 4 classes of freshmen that are accustomed to sitting on the visitor side of the, or I'm sorry, the west east side. I'm saying what you said. They're accustomed to sitting on the east side of the stadium.
Right.
Then we can breach the conversation of the band. We can breach the conversation of these other groups where now once our student body has taken over that as their territory, that they will put the gold members clubs and all these groups. Now we can sell more pregame tickets to fans and others to be on the west side, and we could create a student experience on the east side that incorporates visitors, guests, other people who would not routinely be here. That's a part of this long-term plan that you mentioned. So it'll take us 4 years to get that right. I think we can get there. I think we can be strategic about it, but I think we have to embrace the entire facility, not just the west side, which is what we've been doing the last few years.
Very good. For those who just joined us, we're speaking with Fred Washington. Once again, we're flip-flopping back and forth. It's no secret that there was a dynamic move that shook up PV Nation, and I'm pretty sure you're aware where I'm going right now. And my thing is, are there any discussions right now of Panther Athletics returning to KPVU?
Sure. You know what? Miss Wanda, who's with the Panther backers, just stopped me on my walk over here and then talked to me about that same thing. So we are in discussions with that. Obviously, on the other side of the hat, I manage KPVU. I'm a listener and donor to KPVU, and so it was a little bit of a surprise to me when we did that. We are discussing and working through the logistics to try to make that happen again for this sports season. You know, one of the challenges, if you want to call it a challenge, is and in going down the road that they went down, it's easier to do things than often it is to undo things. So one of the things that they have added by doing I say they, but we as an athletic department did by moving to that platform is we did some sales of services. We're selling, and we do what's called call to action. So you have a more traditional commercial, right? KPVU is public radio, so we can't do call to action, right? We do underwriting and we do informational stuff, and so we have to untangle that web before we can put that product back on public radio. But it is definitely something that we're talking about. It's definitely something that, I mentioned that I was deployed. I was deployed in 2003, and I listened to our football games on KPVU in Afghanistan. So I see the value in the resource. I see the value in KPVU being a part of what we do, and we're going to work to get that done.
Okay, that was one of them personal deals for me. You know, I'm a product of that department, and it's just one of those mind-boggling things. On how do we get to this point?
It was surprising to me. It wasn't something that, as a team, we spend a lot of time talking about or planning for, knowing that it was coming. You know, we kind of got it at maybe this time 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
It was 2 years ago.
This will be the second year.
Yeah. So it was about this time that we got notification that we weren't going to partner in that way for that season. So we're gonna see what we can do to get it back on that.
Okay, now on a number scale, you're a numbers guy and everything. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the greatest, what are the chances that we'll have PV football on KPVU this year?
What are the chances?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
So it's a lot of ways to answer that. So hold on, no, I'm serious. So if you look at our season, our package, we have a lot of TV games this year. All right, and so each of those contracts come with different restrictions, and I'm still reviewing all of those contracts to know what our flexibility is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In addition, I mentioned Family and Friends Day, which is a Southern game. I'm trying to televise that game. If I can get that done, that's something else. That's another game where now I have to leverage radio versus TV. If I have my way, our sports programs will be back on KPVU this year.
Okay.
I cannot fairly. So if I answer it in terms of effort, you'll get a 10 effort. All right. So there's a 10 out of 10 effort going to go into making this happen. Without having the luxury of reading all of our commitments, I can't tell you of accomplishing that goal where we're going to end up.
Are you familiar with the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 broadcasting rights?
Sure I am.
Okay. With the radio part,
yeah.
Because there is a flagship station for Prairie View, they will always have Tier 3 opportunities.
Tier 3 opportunities, but
yes,
that
sir.
is not the configuration that Prairie View Athletics was broadcasting on right now.
No. I understand that.
Right. So what we submitted to those TV partners when we entered into those agreements was what we were doing.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So as a partner, we have to communicate with our partners when we change gears on them. Not that they're going to have a problem with it or it's going to be any negative impact, but there's just a process that you go through to communicate. And that's why I say our effort is going to be a 10. Right? I don't see any real reason other than the sales commitments that we may have made that we wouldn't be able to do it.
Absolutely.
So if I'm not a speculator, but if I had to speculate, I would say that we're going to be on public radio this year.
Okay, well, very good. That is exciting. That's encouraging news to hear for PV Nation in particular, because when you've been having something, that's part of the family. And that was like getting the news that a loved one has passed on, and you try to fill that void. But we'll let that be worked out, and hopefully we'll get an update on that to be able to move forward.
Sure. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Hughes.
Mr. John Hughes.
John and Dwayne have had some conversations and are working through that. John, who's the general manager for KPVU, really wants it back over there. He really would enjoy having it over there, and so I think we're going to be able to get it done.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, we got football right around the corner. Volleyball's right around the corner. Soccer has already kicked off. So you're knee-deep in athletic director duties, man. How do you balance this act between athletic director and auxiliary services?
Well, one thing that I can say is that I inherited a good team, just about a complete team. The soccer coach was not here, but we had already identified our soccer coach. It just took a little bit of logistics to get all of that stuff done. But when you have all of the coaches in place, and the coaches can do what they do if you have a good team, which I think we do, most of that stuff takes care of itself. The performance piece. What our job is to put those resources and support services in place to support those teams and those student athletes to make sure that they can have everything they need on game day and during preparation. And so most of those things I think we're in a very good place. When I started this job in 2008, we were resource strapped. It wasn't a case where I could just make a call and say, yeah, I like that. Go ahead and do that. Yeah, get that in. But I think we're in that position now. And if we become better managers of those resources, I think we'll do even more special things here.
Well, sir, I want to thank you again personally for making yourself available for the show. I believe that this is the best university, hands down. I don't care about HBCU tag to it, but this university changed my life, and I'm forever indebted to it. And I appreciate you in the role of leadership sitting down with me to discuss this thing, because sometimes when people speculate, that's all it is speculation. But when you can answer the questions and the dialogue can go back and forth, then let the truth rest where it needs to rest, and the rest will take care of itself. And with that being said, I want to give you an opportunity to have some closing thoughts on this segment here.
Sure. Well, to close out, let me say that I am first very appreciative of the things that you and others do to promote this institution, and to share with as many people as you can what we were able to do and accomplish here together. PV Nation is a family, and we need everybody to pull together in one direction towards a common goal in order for us to be successful. I would not argue with anyone that Prairie University or our athletic program, our academic programs are the best in the nation. I travel to a lot of places. I see a lot of things, and I'm humbled to say that I just haven't seen anything better than what we have right here. This year is a year of change for us as an institution. But change is something that you have to embrace, and change is something that you have to enjoy, because not all change is bad change, even if you don't understand it. But right now we have a lot of positive things going on. We're going to focus and put the best things in front of our student athletes that we can, and we're going to continue to do everything that we can to be special. I want to share this with you, Mike. I've been sharing this with everybody that I talk to, and it's two things, and I don't want to go too long, so cut me off.
Man, no, you take your time. This is a family network.
So I was asked a question a couple of weeks ago about this football student athlete, I think from California, who's the #1 prospect, and visited FAMU. Right, and people will ask me, well, what do you think? Why should a kid go there? He's special. He can go anywhere. All these different things, and I said in response to that, with an immediate response, and I even thought about it more. Why not us? And that's the question that I've been phrasing to everyone. Why not us? When you look at the dynamics of sports, if you look at football, a study came out yesterday from the NCAA and one of their one of the writers that do sports things, that in football, at the end of any year, 1.7% of those football student athletes will go pro and play pro. And yes, I know Prairie View has one out there right now, but 1.7% of all student athletes who are playing football will become pro athletes. It didn't just say NFL, it said pro athletes. So if you consider that only 1.7% will have the opportunity to make what they love as a sport a career, what are you going to do with all the others? What I would submit to you, and I would submit to anyone, is that Prairie View A&M as an HBCU, many other HBCUs across this nation, do as good a job or better at preparing the individual for their life after college. And if you are interested in what you're going to do for the rest of your life, why wouldn't you consider us as an option? That's the question that I pose. Now, I mentioned football is 1.7%. All student athletes going on to play pro is 2%. So regardless to what sport you play, only 2% of those student athletes will go on to play pro. Football 1.7, all sports 2.0. All mathematical equations are skewed by something. So we have some sports where more than 2% are going, but we have other sports where less than 2% is going. I watch TV with my kids, and there's a professional sport right now where they pitch the little bean bag into the hole. People play it on their back dock by the pool or whatever. Or you can go to a sports bar, they have that game where you're pitching the bean bag across the room and the bean bag goes in the hole. We don't have that at Prairie View. Right?
Right.
So the skewing of that, if you go to a school that has that, your odds of going pro are a lot better, right? Because
yes,
every school doesn't have it. So that
right.
skews the number up. You may have 40 or 60% of the student athletes in that sport who can make it pro because everybody's not offering it. Whereas basketball, track and field, baseball, softball, tennis, everybody has it.
Absolutely.
Everybody has it. So the odds are harder for you, less likely that you'll make it pro. So I want our focus to be on creating opportunities for the student athlete, whether they choose to continue to pursue a goal of sports as a career, or whatever their chosen academic field is, that they are capable of functioning in that thing. So that's the thing that I want to do, and I like to share that with everybody. So my slogan, if you will, is "Why not us?"
Why not us?
And I think people need to think about that, because it wasn't people who you would think are outside of the PV Nation or the HBCU community who were questioning, why should this young man consider an HBCU, right? And that's why it was so shocking to me to hear that.
Absolutely.
So that's the one thing. The other thing I'll remind you guys in closing is that I've said to every one of our alumni chapters, I'm very grateful that our fans travel with us when they go to Vegas. Everybody's talking about Vegas, or when you go to Atlanta or all those other things. It's very good, and the fans are wonderful. The student athletes appreciate it. But if you're trying to help Prairie View Athletics be successful and accomplish our goals, we need you to support our student athletes on campus here, because it's not just about the financial resources or gains that come. It's you being here, you seeing what's going on, you being able to share, hey, I don't like this, or I like this. This is good. This is bad. This can be better. Or you can interact with the student athlete and say, hey, you don't do that. Do this. Hey, what's going on with you? Why are you down today? Can we help you in any way? Those things happen on a greater scale, right, when you're here with us on the Hill. We want you to come home to the Hill. We want you to engage with the Hill, and never feel that a complaint, a question, or an idea that you shared with me is not heard and appreciated. Whether I agree with you or not, your information and your input is important. So I'd like to close with that and say God bless you guys, man, and thank you guys for being with me today.
Well, thank you very much. And to add to your numbers point, I did the math on Cordero Hodge, who's with the Los Angeles Rams right now, compared to the teammates he had on that roster, and he was 1.1% of that roster. And on that note, I want to tell you, expectations are great when you set them, but if you never set them, how can you measure your success? He is Mr. Fred Washington, athletic director for Prairie View A&M University. Panthers will be taking the field this coming Saturday against the Rice Owls, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am the radio guy, the Dr. Mike Prince, reminding you to follow me on Twitter at OBN_radio. Instagram is Radio Guy 22. The website is obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.